So this is where we are. I think we're on the right track. I definitely wouldn't mind have more of the kernel noise affecting the final part of the simulation. I would even consider having more of the kernel noise in here and less of the other directions that we have. I think it's coming together. It's also hard to distinguish with this amount of particles. We will need to have more particles to be able to kind of distinguish that a bit more. But I think the expansion, the eccentric motion that we added might be a bit too strong. I don't know. But definitely having a bit more of that of those tendrils affecting the motion of the particles. So there are different ways that we could go around and adjust this. Let me close this down. So I'm going to go to the actual advection volume. And on the advection volume, so what I'm saying is I would like to have more of that kernel noise. So I'll increase the scale of this 0.5. I'll reduce this roll size a bit because it seems like it's a bit too big at this point. And as for the directionality of these, we do have this expansion, and I'm just wondering how much of that I actually want. Yeah, but I think it makes sense. Another thing that I'm going to do is on the simulation itself, I'm going to go to the pop network, and here on the pop effect by volumes, we have this velocity blend that's being multiplied by this. So I'm going to increase this to 0.5 so that it blends a bit faster. And the velocity scale, I'm going to try and keep it like this and give it another go, another simulation to see how this goes. So I'm going to override the previous one. I'm not too worried. We could kind of increment the version, but I think it'll be best like this. One thing I'm also going to do is for this second test, I'm actually going to go forward with the actual high resolution version. I don't think the naive size of 2000, it may be a bit too high. So I'm gonna try, just so it doesn't take that long, I'm gonna go with 1000 for this case. Probably not. I'll just leave it with the default values that we're using so far, and I'm hoping this test will be closer to the final result that we're going for. And yeah, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm gonna save the file and hit save to disk, and we'll be right back. Conclusions. We have a pretty good cool effect at this point. We will probably increase the particles a bit more for the final version, but overall I like the behavior. From this point of view, I don't see many issues. From this point of view, the overall shape is okay, maybe a bit too strong around here, the swirly motion of the kernel noise. Slight adjustment to make there maybe. And here on this side, I like it very much up to here. At this point, I would like these particles to follow the robot a bit more. It's okay, it's working fine like this, but I think it would be best if they don't create this distance between the character. Okay, but overall, I think this first version of the blast is pretty much done. I will just play with the velocity volume to make sure that we have a bit more of this forward motion at this point. But other than that, I think it's looking pretty cool. Playing in real time, I think the overall motion and shapes that we get from pretty much every angle look pretty interesting. Yeah. So I'm gonna tone down the kernel noise slightly and increase a bit the forward motion on the velocity volume. Let's take care of that. File, save, and I'm going to go to the velocity volume, vector volumes. So the idea is going to be, let's have a look at this. I'm going to put it here. So the idea is here on the volume velocity, this is vel from spline, not cell from spline. And the idea is that we don't get to zero here on the forward speed ramp. So let's make sure we don't get all the way up to zero. We always have some forward motion going on. On the volume velocity, the scale of the kernel noise, I'm going to bring it down to 0.42. Yeah, maybe the size of the swirls could be smaller or have a bit more granularity. So I'm going to give it a try with 0.7. So we'll have a bit more granularity. So I'll save the file as is, and I'll do another simulation. And this should be the kind of final one. I'm not going to go all the way up to final, but just to make sure that those adjustments are working as I expect. Regarding the settings here for the final high quality version, we may adjust some of these parameters and just create another preset for us. But for now, this is really a good balance between fast simulation times and or relatively fast simulation times and enough resolution for us to actually be able to visualize all that's happening on the simulation. So again, I'll save. It's a good habit to have. And yeah, just save to disk and we'll be right back. So here we have the new version of the latest simulation. I think it seems like the adjustments went in the right direction. We can always continue to adjust, but at this point, I feel like it's working pretty well. Looking at the simulation from all angles, the motion of the particles seem to be pretty interesting. Really cool result. Let's see from the side. They do go with the character a bit more. They don't separate as much. Still separate a bit, but not as much. And I think this is an interesting blast to have. Some sort of energy blast that's interacting with the character, maybe even being absorbed, partially absorbed by the character. Okay, at this point, I think we're good and we can move on to the next lesson.